We're going to be discussing what makes a game of the year worthy. Let me remind you to like the video, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel because every subscription brings Bob closer to finally figuring out what the hell happened in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. All right, so Bob, you're the guest here. You're the third man on the panel. Why don't you start us off? What makes a game of the year worthy?
So much has to go into a game for it to be game of the year contender. Like, it's multiple factors, really. Like, everything from the sound to the gameplay. It's like how much impact it actually has on the gaming market as a whole, really. And I think that's probably the thing which I look for most in a game of the year is how much impact it has.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a the same general idea what most people have. What do you think, Gary? What makes a game of the year worthy?
I'd agree with Bob. I think it's there's a lot of factors into it. There's obviously art style. I think whether plays well, what kind of effect like Bob said it has on the market. I mean, are people really, or are they? Is there a buzz? Is it a game that that you have a feeling that people will be playing years to come? I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of factors. So, and obviously, number one, it has to be better than everything in the same year that all the other games. And there's thousands and thousands of games that come out a year, so it's tough. Now, one thing I want to note here is, do you feel that certain games don't get the credit that they probably should, and that AAA games kind of take the spotlight from other developers and other guys that maybe deserve a chance to be there?
Sometimes, but not always. Like, Hades won Game of the Year in 2020, and that was like an indie game.
Did it win Game of the Year in 2020?
Yeah. Yeah. That was BAFTA, but yeah, no, it definitely won loads of Game of the Year awards. It was pretty sure it was Game of the Year. Oh, The Last of Us was the Game Awards 2020.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I thought when you're talking Game of the Year, you're talking just like outlets Game of the Year, not like the big VGAs.
Well, the official one, I guess the one most people look at these days is the Game Awards Game of the Year.
Yeah, and I think in 2020, let's see.
It was The Last of Us for the Game Awards.
Yeah,
Part 2.
So Hades took was like a smaller.
Well, it took the BAFTAs, Game Developers Choice Awards. It won quite a few.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it on IGN right now when I was looking it up.
I'd have to look at my Switch box. I don't know if it has a indication exactly if they. Let me look real quick if it said anything on the case per se.
Blinded says The Last of Us 2 did win more awards though, but Hades did win a lot. Yeah, I think that's another thing we need to really discuss. What qualifies as something? We don't really have an Oscar, is what I'm saying. There's no like Oscars,
right? Winner takes all type deal.
Well, not even something that has the prestige that everybody could agree. Like, this is the main award, right? This is the one that matters the most. Because you'll see like 6 or 7 games have Game of the Year sometimes. You're like, how could all these games be Game of the Year, right? There could only be one.
And I just looked at the case. Unfortunately, there's nothing on the Switch case to indicate. They didn't even boast about any awards that they may have won.
Albert says, was It Takes Two worthy of Game of the Year? It's a good game. I wouldn't call it Game of the Year. Definitely not. Solid 7. Solid 7. It Takes Two. We haven't finished it yet. We still got to go through that, me and Sidekick Max. We're close, though.
You put quite a bit of time.
As close to the Oscars. It is, but I mean, is it televised and everything? Is there like a big to do about it?
Yeah, but isn't BAFTA's more British? Oh, yeah, they do a British Academy Games Awards, but I think it's like tied along to BAFTA, which I think is television. Yeah, British Academy of Film and Television Arts.
See, and like Tony said, I don't think they really have, one ring to rule them all type deal. So, so it's kind of all over the place. There's a general consensus among gamers, usually what was game of the year. But there isn't one kind of solidified thing.
Yeah, CM Retro says, here's my thing with some of those Game of the Year awards. Some of the sources I've never heard of. The CM Retro Game of the Year is Battletoads. They paid me $500. See where I'm going with that? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no, like, there's not that one outlet or that one award that everyone like. Yes, like I think the VGAs is probably the closest that we have. But even then, everyone's like, I don't agree with that.
Right.
You got the fan vote, and then Nintendo fanboys came in and they screwed it up because they're fucking salty about PlayStation or some shit, right? There's always some controversy.
I kind of put personally a little bit more weight on the Game Developers Choice Awards.
Right. Yeah, I always thought that, I never really dug too deep into the Game of the Year stuff. To me, it wasn't a big deal. It was just always a personal, because I probably never agreed with a lot of the choices. But I did like watching it for seeing the indies and seeing stuff that I might not have been paying attention to. There are quite a few games, in past years that I looked at because I just, there's so many games out that you can't know about everything that's out there. So, I mean, it does work in your favor if you read between the lines, right? So,
well, look at this: the Game Developers Choice Awards 2020. What do you think won?
What came out in 2020? It was
Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game won Game of the Year.
That was 2019, I think, according to my source on Wikipedia.
According to Google, it says Untitled Goose Game nabs Game of the Year at the 2020 Game Developers Choice Awards.
I didn't know that. I had a chance to pick that up at the flea market for like $10 brand new, and I passed on it. And then later on, I would find out that Panic, the creators of the Playdate, actually published that. So I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I passed on that game. I heard good things about it.
The game develop. See what it is the Game Developers Award is held in like March, so it is games from the previous year. So like the 2020 awards are games from 2019.
Oh, right.
So so Untitled Goose Game won for that. The Australian Game Developer Awards 2020. The winner for that was Moving Out. Now, I've never played Untitled Goose Game, so I can't comment on whether or not it's good. But I've played Moving Out. It's fun, but it's definitely not Game of the Year, right?
And when's VGA Awards is in what, December?
Yeah. No, I think it's maybe November. No, it's not right at the last month. I think it's November, the VGAs.
Ninja Kitty, Hades is Game of the Year material, Untitled Goose Game is not.
Ninja Kitty said Untitled Goose Game is worth it. Untitled Goose Game seems like such a hipster game.
I haven't played. I've looked at a few trailers. It definitely piqued my interest, but I never. I haven't watched too much gameplay on it, so.
It seems more of a meme game to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even. For me, Game of the Year should be something that's sold well, right? Because that at least indicates that the general gaming. The blinded's like, fuck this, he's coming in. The general gaming market has accepted the game. You got to look at, if you can, concurrent player count, how long people are playing. It's got to be more than just what some critics think, because those guys are always pretentious. They
Yeah,
go to like film and
I'm
art school, and
pretentious.
they turn their nose up.
That's me.
They're like, how dare you play those
Fucking Elden Ring.
regular people games? Give me one of those artsy games. They're the ones who think that like Gone Home is good. Gone Home is such a great game. No, it's a walking simulator that sucks. Sucks ass pig. Okay. Rambo on PS3 is leagues ahead of Gone Home. Okay. What would you got to say, Blinded? Didn't you go to art school?
Fuck. No, I didn't go to art school. Taught myself. What do I got to say about what exactly?
What makes a game of the year worthy?
I think you guys kind of nailed it because I was listening. Like, it's kind of fine. It's like, it's a little complex. Like, for me, a game of the year is really based on what I resonated with me. You know what I mean? Like something that is like, oh yeah, this wasn't just like a normal experience. Like you can kind of differentiate a game that's like really good and well polished, but doesn't really connect with you. It's kind of like with a movie or a book or whatever. But like if we go on like technicalities, I guess it would be based on, you know, awards or the graphics, the story, the gameplay. Now I guess accessibility is also a factor. Performance. Like there's probably a lot of different things that go into what makes a game of the year. So that's kind of like my perspective.
Now, I know everybody's throwing around Elden Ring and God of War. Okay. Now I'm going to throw this out there because everybody knows my level of excitement for this game. What does a TMNT Shredder's Revenge have to do to be a game of the year? How could that game? I mean, there's a lot of buzz around it. Do I think it's going to be anywhere near there? No, it's a beat 'em up. Unfortunately, people, I just don't see it happening. But what
It needs
would
to
that
be
game have
innovative,
to do?
Gary.
What would that game have to do to be game of the year material? Because I mean, what is the beat 'em up? I mean, what would they have to add to that?
I mean,
game?
Streets of Rage 4 was kind of game of the year though. Like when it came out back in 2019, I think.
It was good, but what I'm seeing from this game, I mean, can they make like from what I see right now, and if they nail on all the fan service, they nail on what they say they're going to do with over 20 bosses, the characters they threw in the game, the fact that it's not just kind of a beat 'em up, that there's a lot of depth to it. I mean, do they have to add modes? I mean, they shocked everybody with 6 players. I don't think anybody expected 6 players. Not that that's a big thing for me personally, but a lot of people, it kind of blew me away when we watched.
Though. Is there a 6-player beat 'em up?
Yeah, there's.
No,
I mean, X-Men. Yeah, X-Men. X-Men was a 6-player beat 'em up, and that's.
I mean, like as of right
90s.
now.
I mean, not
because
really.
like they're going to compare it to right now. That's the thing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if it could do 6-player co-op, that does something different. Like this is the thing, right? This is what I think a lot of people consider game of the year. Like this is another point, I guess, is that people consider it based on what we're currently getting and what we have already gotten. Right. So if it does something that, even if it's been done before, but it's done in a way that's like different, like that, it's kind of vague, but like I'll give you an example. I know people hate The Last of Us 2. I like The Last of Us 2, and I can understand why it's game of the year, right? Because it's not a game that tells a very simple story, right? Like people want to water it down and say it's a simple story, but that would be cutting out a lot of like the conflict and the politics and sort of the philosophy of it, right? And so I mean, but that's just from a narrative perspective. And so whatever game can really do something that is like hasn't been done before, but also is familiar, that's what's kind of get game of the year. It's kind of like when Overwatch won game of the year, which was stupid because I feel like, I don't know, there was a bunch of other games that came out in 2016 that kind of innovated and changed it a little bit, like Doom or Uncharted, where it's like, okay, why is Overwatch winning, right? But I mean, eventually you just kind of understand that it is what it is. I don't know if that was like super vague or all over the place, but
Now, I do want to clarify. I never said that it was 100% guaranteed that it had to be innovative. Okay, that's usually part of it. It's usually part of it. I don't know. Here, the problem is what I have with it is, I look at this game and I hands down see the best Turtles game, and I see the best beat 'em up ever created. But like
why though? That's the
because it's
like,
doing
why would you say that?
It's including things from like all kinds of games. You have like a Golden Axe type, like how Golden Axe had the potion, had the special abilities, so that's in there. It's not just a standard I can kick, I can punch, I can throw. Because I think while I liked Streets of Rage 4, I think combat wise it was lacking. I think it was a great game. I think visually it was nice. I just think for a beat 'em up, it didn't have.
Hold up. Because you said combat wise it's lacking, but Streets of Rage 4 has the ability for you to change what moves your characters use, as long as you go.
I think he probably means more variety. Like
no, but it has variety because you have the moves that you have, right? But with the new DLC, you can unlock new moves for your character.
But see that
didn't come out of DLC, no?
Well, even on DLC, to me, I cannot include DLC. If somebody plays that game and does not buy the DLC,
okay, so what if they release a version of the game that has the DLC included?
I think they do, but I've never played that, and unfortunately,
does it become DLC anymore? Does it become part of the game?
I mean, it's still DLC because I have a version of Streets of Rage 4 that does not have DLC. So those extra characters and all those extra things that were in the game, I've never played.
And I won't play them until I get that edition, copy. So you consider Deluxe Edition a different game? So then Streets of Rage 4 Deluxe Edition, Game of the Year.
Would be. I mean, that's a fair way to say it. Yeah, I would say it that way. But like I said, personally, I didn't experience that because on my version that I got from Limited Run, when I bought it right when it came out, unfortunately, I kind of got screwed on that. I'm a little still salty about that, but and therefore I didn't experience the more depth if that was part of it. I still feel like for a beat 'em up, it was good. Like, don't get me wrong, what I played, I enjoyed. I like the art style. I like the options that they gave you to kind of switch on and off what you wanted to. You could take stuff out of the foreground if you wanted to. You could make it look more retro. You know, it had the options in there. I felt it was a great game. I feel some people gave it a bad rap. I think there were people who didn't like it because it didn't hit like the first 3 Streets of Rage games did on Sega for them. I thought it was fantastic. I agreed with Blinded when he did his post on Twitter. I thought it was a fantastic game. For me, and I know nostalgia is a big thing. I think, you know, I am highly biased on this, and I'll admit that Turtles are like my thing. I think they're, from everything that I've seen, they're nailing everything. They're throwing so many characters from the Rogue Gallery in there. They got, I mean, who thought they would do 6 players? And then Casey's in there. Like, they lied to us to throw that character in there. They told us that wasn't going to happen. And
maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was added in by popular demand.
Well, this was definitely thrown in when they delayed the game. When they were talking about delaying the game, they were talking about delaying the game for the whole. I think not for the whole sole purpose, but it was a good chunk of the reason why they delayed the game. What was it, a year ago or about 7 or 8 months ago? Was to throw him in there. Anybody who's studied exactly like the amount of sprites that they have made to animate these characters is astounding. It's like a page or so. We're talking maybe 20 or more animations for these characters.
Yeah, it looks brilliant. The thing, Gary. I agree. The game looks gorgeous. I love the sounds. I'm a huge Turtles fan, obviously. But I have to ask, if it wasn't Turtles, if this was a new IP, same look, same sounds, they were just aardvarks, not Turtles.
I think it would be
no connection to nostalgia. Would you still be having this conversation?
I think so. I mean, I'm looking at beat 'em ups I highly regard beat 'em ups, and I understand that they're not popular. They're not usually game of the year material. Most people don't really like beat 'em ups because they're simple, right? You can beat the game usually in a couple hours, and there's not much replayability there. I understand that, but for a beat 'em up and what they're including in the game, the amount of moves that you can kind of pull off, and like beat 'em ups nowadays, I like how you can like somewhat juggle characters. I think that's kind of important so that it's not just a standard, punch, kick, throw type scenario. I like what they're adding, and obviously I have to see more. I do have to play it. Like, obviously this could fall flat in certain areas if there's, depending on how they, how long the levels last, how much replayability you get out of it. But from what I see, I don't see a beat 'em up that I've played, and I've played quite a few between, Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, other consoles. I've played so many throughout the years that this one is like, it's checking all the boxes for me, like everything. And I mean, this is coming from guys from Tribute Games, which I'm biased on that too. Panzer Paladin was a fantastic throwback to like a Nintendo game. They did Scott Pilgrim. They did Flint Hook, which was a fantastic roguelite that I absolutely loved. That was probably in my top 3 of roguelites that I've played my entire life. So, I mean, these guys have everything going for them, and it's this. I haven't been excited for a game for a long time.
Chappie says, I think for Shredder's Revenge to be Game of the Year, it should incorporate an open world in a fantasy setting written by George R.R. Martin. Nailed it, Chappie. You nailed it.
I was going to make that joke.
So Gary, if this was an open world Ninja Turtles game, would you like that? Going around New York City, fighting different villains as the Turtles.
How would an open world work in 2D setting? I guess that's kind of how. That's kind of how River City Ransom worked, and how River City Girls is basically working, where you can go from one segment to another. River City Girls was good. River City Girls was really good too. And that's a good reason why I don't think Turtles will even be close, because River City Girls was kind of disregarded, and there was a huge following. People absolutely loved that game. They're waiting for the second one to come out this year. I'd like that style. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not really open world, but that's about as open world as you could get with a beat 'em up.
Yeah. Chappie says actually an open world beat 'em up is definitely River City Ransom. Yeah. So I think we've pretty much covered this. I don't want to just keep beating it into the round. For me, if you want to make Shredder's Revenge Game of the Year worthy, this is what you got to do. Make the frogs unlockable. If I can play as the 4 frogs in my Turtles beat 'em up, Game of the Year.
I would go as far to say as if they could either do, if they do more unlockable characters, or if they do alternate costumes, that would be high up there, because that people don't understand the amount of work that it would take to. It's not just a costume swap; they'd have to redo all of the artwork. Yeah, they'd have to do each sprite for each frame or whatever. It's not just a simple costume swap. So
anything you want to add to this, Bob?
No, I'm good.
Anything blinded before we move on?
Not really.